That's his summer job.
There's several seed companies around here that they still do that. The major part of it nowadays is done by machine.
Mm.
But you have to send the machine through the field too. I mean, you have to send people through to pick the ones that the machine mixed. Unfortunately, most of the corn nowadays and the soybeans and lots of other crops are genetically modified.
Yeah.
Wondering about that and the difference between that and hybrid.
Well, hybrid is just regular genetics. It's just regular
Mhm.
breeding where you take two varieties and cross them, two natural varieties. Genetically modified is taking a gene often from one species and putting it into another species. And when you do that, the gene also includes a lot more genetic material along with the gene. We don't know what all the effects are. And of course, the genetically modified goes wild too and starts infecting the natural
Hybrid.
species. And
The hybrid, okay.
but hybrids are just, I mean, I think American Indians did that too.
Hmm.
It's a way, it's still like animals, hybrid animals, like mules.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And hybrid plants, just about every hybrid has more, well, I forget the fact, them and bigger, let's say. They grow bigger and faster, have other qualities, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna be on up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the bad part of the GMO corn is that it gets made Roundup ready. And so the seed is controlled and it's patented. And so you have to buy their seed. And the seed for canola and corn is controlled by one or two companies in the world.
You know, Monsanto tried to patent India's rice that they've been growing for recently, and the court in The Hague threw it out.
Oh, good. Good.
I've always considered Monsanto part of the axis of evil of our time.
Right.
A great writer about all this is Vandana Shiva. I don't know if people have run into her, but she's from India and started writing especially about water and how the water was getting used up by American companies and European companies, Coca-Cola, etc. And that's challenging stuff.
Greetings, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Stock
family. Hello.
Bye.
Yeah.
Ellen, did you get my email? Okay, check your email. It's about the song. Does anybody know who wrote Those Who Wait on the Lord, or what tune it is?
And I can sing the tune, but I don't know the name of it.
We're trying to find out that. If anybody knows, let Ellen know.
So we wrote that? I didn't know we wrote that one.
I didn't either.
Well, it might be a tune that was adapted that somebody.
I think it's an adapted tune. And coming from something like the Mennonites or wait a minute.
Well, I'm hoping that
It's a German tune, Venicum, or it sounds like that. Da, 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 da. It sounds something like that, but
okay.
I'm hoping that Ryan can get the okay to send it to publishing. He worked on that.
I think that's a Swedish folk tune. I remember it was a hit song, 60s or 70s, goes dun 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 dun.
it's a German song too, yeah.
But it's a love song. I don't have a wooden heart. That's the English.
Okay.
Don't know it. I believe it was Swedish. It sure sounds like the same tune to me for some.
You know,
Venicom, Venicom, Venicom.
I think it's gotten out in the world wherever it come from because
We got 26 people available. Oops.
yeah, I've been
Sorry.
at 2 churches where they sing that.
Didn't know that we weren't.
Evelyn, is Larry going to be on?
Yeah, he's the one who
Larry's
got
there.
me online.
I am on.
Larry's on.
There's Larry.
Oh, nice
There you go.
background.
Thank you.
Is this your birthday, Larry?
No, my birthday was yesterday.
Oh, happy
Well,
birthday.
Birthday.
This is good. I just went on
Today is
YouTube,
Dale's birthday.
for you guys' information, and there were a couple of ladies singing "Those Who Wait on the Lord" to the exact tune that we sing it to. So I don't know if that means anything, but it might be some of us, for all I know. That's it.
Jim, I see your lips moving, but you're on mute.
Welcome to session 7. This is our last go round with Choosing Earth. And its theme is integration, what's been learned, what's shifted, and what's next for you. So let's begin with a meditation. And what I'd like to do, rather than fill ourselves with words, if everybody would place yourselves on mute and then simply take the next 2 minutes and look around the screen at your colleagues and notice them and think what it is they have to contribute to this, what they have contributed and what they may well contribute to this great transition we've been studying about. So go ahead and mute yourselves and just look around and appreciate your colleagues. Thank you. Sunny's going to send us into our teams. We'll have 58 minutes in our teams plus 2 minutes to reflect on how things have shifted and what are next steps. And then we'll come back briefly and report and have a couple of announcements, and David will do our closing dedication. So send us to our team, Sunny.
I think it'll stay on because it's an alert, but I think the server's off.
I'm sharing an office with my son who's doing some computer support, so I'm going to be on mute as much as possible so as not to disturb the rest of you, but I'll jump in as needed.
Okay. Welcome, everyone, once again. Does everybody have some paper handy? Because part of our time together, we will be doing a little writing. If not, well, hello. Come join. Hi. Elfrida, how are you?
How you doing?
Well, good.
Sorry.
Good to see you. I was just saying to everyone, if you don't have paper handy, which actually I need to run get a little bit as well, we are going to have a little piece where we'll do some writing. So take 1 second and grab some paper, and I'll be right back too.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So we want to take the next while we together we have three pieces of actually 4 pieces, but 3 pieces to work on and then a reflection at the end. And we will have a time to report back at the end to the large group as well. Okay. And so this week, maybe think about if you might like to be the one reporting back some of our great ideas. We want to reflect on our journey since last May. And, you know, since we've been studying this, since we've met with Dwayne, since we've had now 7 sessions together. And I want to throw out first just a question of what are your learnings? What have your learnings been about this great transition? What are you discerning? What are you seeing? What have you been experiencing about this transition that we're in?
I'll go.
Okay.
I really do credit the class and the book study with really helping me know my place. It's important to know your place, and this has to do with where we are in this historical journey we're a part of. All of us with one of those complexes that want to make the world better, you know, live in Shangri-La or a better place, and to realize that is not going to happen in my lifetime. It's not. And therefore I can quit fretting about that, and I can quit wasting energy on trying to do something that isn't that's wasteful. I can instead decide to live an important life, and I can perhaps lend some energy to some of the trends and things that are going to be a part of the future, the transition, the people, the whatever. But I can give up that thing about I'm going to make the world better. The world is not better, and I'm not going to make it better. But there's something that is shifted about me knowing that. It's a place from where I can stand and maybe do better work. I don't know.
Thank you.
I like that. I like it.
I like it too, very much. Does that spark anything for anyone, or other thoughts, other experiences that you've been having from this time together?
Well, one for me is, you know, the little, maybe this is related to Alfreda's, you know, saving the bags, or, you know, recycling the bags, and all the recycling we do it just seems so infinitesimal relative to the massiveness of what's happening to the planet.
Okay.
And I remember I can't remember which organization. It's the one that gets the stuff out of the ocean. They say they're getting the stuff out of the ocean. What is it? I can't remember. Anyway, I really did some deep research on them, and it was really very disappointing in terms of what they were actually doing. You know, their story brings in a fair amount of money, but again, it just seemed, when you really read about what they were doing, it was, again, well, I don't know, very small relative to what's happening. I mean, it's so huge. And I think about what was talking with Wendell Rave here. And, you know, they went out and visited Portland. They've been thinking of moving from the East Coast to the West Coast. And at that time, then all the fires are going on there, and there's going to be no place to go that you can get away from this. We are not going to be able to hide, period. I'm complete.
Yeah.
I have a similar experience that Barrett has from a little different perspective. Since we got into this climate issue, and by the way, Evelyn, that's great background you got. I've been doing more rereading of and immersing myself in, like, I have this one. We have this one app that is all the news about climate change that comes in every day, and all they do is they collect articles from newspapers and news organizations from all over the world, and they put it all in this email, and it comes out in a long list of headlines, and then you can drill down and look at the detailed articles. But it just the overwhelmedness of what is going on, both from the standpoint of what's going haywire and what people are doing about it. It just it can get overwhelming, and I think this study had and the conversation we've been having these last few weeks has enabled me to to deal with the overwhelmedness. It's still overwhelming, but I'm feeling lighter about it.
Thank you. Evie or James?
Sentence from one of the early chapters where he's describing these 8, and he points out how they interact with one another. And so I found myself saying, we're in a systems crisis that includes climate change and food and a gazillion other things. And
So seeing it more as a whole system thing in crisis with these.
well, yeah, and the other thing then, helping my son move into his house and watching the people in the neighborhood walk by and so forth and so on, it dawned on me that this, for want of a better term, this suburban lifestyle is really a wonderful lifestyle. You know, it fits and it's got fitness and it's got this and this and this and this. And it started, I was reading an article, it started as early as the 1600s, this kind of social vehicle we're operating with. And its last really big crisis was the world wars. I think we were talking about that last week. That really shook up the colonial aspect and the dominance of the West. Western culture was, up until almost when I was born, kind of, that was it for humanness, you know. And after World War II, we rebuilt a social order that's based on independent nations and has a real focus on material success. It was like something to keep people focused and occupied. And that whole style is gone into overshoot, I guess is the word that Dwayne uses. And so a next lifestyle is going to be created, and everybody's not going to create it. People are going to figure out bits and pieces, and then other people are going, well, look what they're doing. That looks like a good idea. I think I will do that. And so an opportunity to watch for the small social demonstrations that are opening a new way. And I guess the other thing that dawned on me, I'm talking too long. The other thing that dawned on me was a big part of that lifestyle since the 1950s has focused on preventable mortality. That is, preventing death, staying away from death, denying death. In some way or another, this next thing that we're inventing is going to have the courage, I think, to include death as a part of life. And I'm more than complete.
Thank you. That's yeah, very helpful. Evie, what thoughts? Do you have some thoughts, reflection on just your learnings? What's sticking with you about the great transition we're in?
We have a number of people who have been using this game called the SDG game, which is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals for 2030. And there are 17 main goals. And what they did was, when we went to Japan, we discovered that someone had created a game that would encourage, mostly was targeted for elementary, middle, and high school students.
Oh, really?
And what they do is they have a set, have a set of cards, and everyone gets a certain number of each type of card. And one is about economic, one is about the environment, one is about social networking, et cetera, et cetera. And basically you do 3 rounds, and what you discover is that if you invest your time or you go and you bargain with other people to trade cards. If you only focus on the economic, then you lose because the environment and your social networks suffer. If you only focus on the social networks and the environment, you suffer because you don't have a way to sustain yourself. So then basically what you discover is you just have to balance what is the most important thing to all of us. And as it turns out, it's the environment. And so you get higher points if you invest in NGOs and you invest in other types of activities that help people connect to each other. And it's a very stimulating game. And we have a colleague who translated all the cards into traditional Chinese and has been using these with 150 different organizations, a majority of which have been schools. And in the schools, there have been arguments about what you're teaching. I mean, in other words, okay, so you give these cards to the kids and they do this and they do that, and now they have a different perspective on what's important. And they said, and why are you doing this? They said, because of climate change. Don't you experience it being hotter than ever before? Haven't you experienced fires in unusual places that were never there before? And these animals that have become extinct because there's no more environment for them to live. We're on an island that's about the size of New Jersey and with 23 million people. And so the argument has been, well, whatever sustains people, in other words, however you make money is really the focus of your life. And therefore you shouldn't knock that for students who, when they grow up, discover they don't have any money and they don't have a way to change anything. And I thought, are you really, is that what they said to you? Because Jackie Chang, who's been with IAF for a long time and a colleague of ours, said, you know, I've had these big arguments with people. They don't believe that this climate change is going to affect their life in the long run. And they don't want us to necessarily give young people the option to think on their own and make their own decisions. And I thought, do you really mean what you're saying? And she said, well, they have a curriculum. They're supposed to teach the curriculum. And I said, but one of the things that they agreed to do with the Northwestern Pacific schools and college associations was to give students the ability to have cognitive, to be able to think and to be able to decide and to be able to move forward, not just spoon feed the information. And so they said, yes, but we don't want to teach them things that we don't believe in. And I thought, you don't believe that this is happening and you don't want to hear the data. So it's sort of like, wow. And usually scientists are empirical in the Chinese context, but I don't know how we're going to manage this without figuring out different networks. Maybe we need to work with the Buddhist networks. Maybe we need to work with the NGOs that, I mean, we do have a lot of NGOs that are real environmental speakers.
Mhm.
I mean, they've been talking about saving whales and dolphins and all the refuse in the sea and the ocean, and the amount of fish that you can't catch anymore. So anyway, so that's what I've been thinking about.
Yeah, that's a lot. That is great. And I'd love to have the name of that game and how to locate
Called
it.
the SDG game, but I will find out the actual name.
Well,
Okay.
another thing for me is where we are, it would be possible to believe that nothing is happening. In Wisconsin, I mean, just driving here, what you see are luscious fields of corn and beans and, you know, the forest. And I'm sure the people around us here who live here permanently probably aren't paying much attention to what's going on. I suppose they watch TV, but we had a fellow that was over here last week helping us with something or other. In fact, 2 sets of people, and they said they can't get anybody to work or to help them. One was doing had to help, we needed some help building something. Another one is going to have to replace some windows here because this is a very old place. And both of them said, we can't get any help. And one of them said, well, Biden is giving people so much money, they don't have to work. And I mean, we are in the midst of Wisconsin, Trump signs, a lot of Trump signs, and it's like living in a different universe than where we come from in Northfield, which is a very aware kind of universe to live in. And I mean, there are a lot of people who just live out here permanently, you know, and I don't know, I suppose you watch TV and it's sort of like watching, you know, you watch all sorts of stuff on TV and then you don't pay any attention to it, you know? And so it's a very strange feeling. I mean, I'm really grateful to have this place to hole up in, you know, but it doesn't take away from the consciousness of what's going on. And, you know, like last week we were with Mary Laura and Ken up on Rainy Lake, which is right up near Canada. And there's no, I mean, you could see you could sense the smoke coming from the fires in Canada into that area. But the area itself is so spectacular that it just doesn't enter your mind in a way. I mean, it does ours because we're thinking about this all the time. But that if you're just in that place, living there, I mean, it's so remote and so far away. I don't know, you know, it'd be easy to ignore it. Let's just put it that way. If I stayed here, I wouldn't, I mean, we wouldn't ignore it, but if I had lived here and was living here, it'd really be possible to not understand the depth of the problem that we are facing as a planet. I'm complete.
Okay, wow. I was just gonna say too, in my own family, I've got one part of my family is a group of people that fly private jets everywhere and are building a 3rd house and have 4 cars and 3 boats and on and on and on and on. And are loving their life, but are not in touch with even the realities that are in our life here in a townhome in a little neighborhood of Minneapolis. And yet I'm also realizing that even our little townhome, who housed a guest from Africa who's a leader there, a bishop, remarked on how how much stuff we have, you know? And anyway, so this study has brought all this much more to the fore
Mhm.
for me.
Mhm.
And you're like Alfreda said, I don't really have the answers, but I am shifting a similar gear to what Alfreda was talking about, where I'm focusing in now, and I'm going to be starting a job in a school, a middle school, August 30th. So that's a new whole 5 days a week kind of new commitment. It's not for a long time. It's substituting for someone who's out for 3 months. So just up into November. But that is making me think of that next generation, the one that's coming up, the one that and middle school kids, you know, grade 6, 7, 8. What kind of world are we going to be passing to them? And I'm finding myself writing and communicating with my senators a lot more, and my representative a lot more, just about you know, getting stuff done in Washington, stuff, you know, that needs to get done, obviously. And however, now I am beginning to focus in on the commitment I want to make here and keep sort of some blinders on, because I can't do everything. I can't even understand everything. But this study has helped me really see the interrelatedness of it all the way down to the smoke from the California fires apparently is adding to, if you breathe in that air very much, adding to the level of COVID that people are getting, and so on and so forth. That it really, the crisis we're in is very multifaceted, as others of you are saying. Anyway, if you have paper and pen handy.
Can I just ask a question, Joyce? Did the rest of the group, have you watched that movie that I read about in our Google Doc that Dwayne and Colleen Elgin recommended, Breaking Boundaries? Have you all seen that movie?
No.
No.
I have not.
It's on Netflix, and it's the best imaginable education piece I've seen on the complexity of the issues facing us. And in fact, Joanne and I are going to write every member of Congress. And I just thought of this when you said, find myself writing my senators, and ask them to see it. Anyway, it is a great piece, and y'all should check it out.
Okay.
That's
all right.
A plug. And now back to you and the paper.
Okay. Can you get it on anything but Netflix, or you got to have Netflix?
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. But
The
thank you for
Elgins
that.
referred it.
I must have missed that. But Jim, have you seen it? Anybody else seen it? No. Okay. But thanks for that. I will track it down. Okay. So if you have paper and pen or pencil with you handy there, let's just take a little bit of time to talk. Well, first of all, before we write, about what are you realizing that you can do, and that you're maybe contemplating a step in doing it. What do you know, and several of you have alluded to this, what can I do is the question. Given everything I now am aware of. So let's talk just for a couple minutes, and then we can move to writing a little bit. Did anyone take a look at the appendix on community voice and earth voice at the end?
Yes.
Okay. And I talk about the electronic town meeting, how that can work, how it can work even on a bigger scale if we had the will to do that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that made me think of Jim, you're muted. Made me think of the work we did on town meeting, and if only we had had all this technology and the
Wouldn't have been as
connections
fun.
that could have been made. No, it wouldn't have been as fun. Yeah.
There are still some towns that still have town meetings because of that whole effort, you know? Yeah, so I think, try and think possibilities. I just today thought and realized I'm a part of Rotary. I'm a Rotary member. And during the COVID, I took a pause because I was doing stuff online as a therapist with, you know, I needed to take a break. However, I had just in the past couple of weeks realized that there are 2 Rotary groups now in the Twin Cities that are devoting themselves completely and only to environmental issues and climate change issues. So now I'm in the big hunt to track one of those.
You might want to check, Rotary International has a major initiative on climate now too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, I think individually, am I muted? No.
No, you're good.
No, okay. Individually, it still is important to watch our images, our own internal images, and keep them on a level that is a hopeful level rather than to fall into complete despair, because I do feel still, you know, imaginal education, and you create the images you want to work on. And it's very easy in something that's as disastrous as this to just fall into a puddle of despair. And I think it is important to, you know, I don't know how we do this. What difference would it make if a whole group of people, say our whole community of people, decided to focus on one area or so and just, create really strong pictures, you know, and put them out there into the universe. I do think there is something that works with that, where you get a really good image and you put it out there, that at least it contributes to the collective universe, you know. And if we go all poor me, poor us, poor United States, poor Earth, we contribute to the negativity of that.
Right. Very good. That's a very good point. We do need to sort of flip into the possibility side. And I appreciated, was it Gene Watts, Jim? Gene Watts put out a article about saving the oceans that she ran into. And it, you know, it just made me feel very good to see something that people are doing that there's several projects going on, one in the US, one in Britain, but they're long-term, they're a couple decades.
Oh, she's frozen.
Huh? Who's frozen? Am I frozen?
No.
No. Okay. But anyway, but let's think about possibilities. What's really and it doesn't have to be huge. It can be like a step, as some of you were saying. So, okay, let's take a few minutes and for yourself, take a few minutes to just write about what are you ready to commit to, or what do you feel you're maybe getting ready to commit to? What's the step that you're looking at taking in your journey? And then we'll pull back together after. We're going to take 10 minutes to do this. So then we'll pull back together and share a bit with each other, okay? Okay, so we'll pull back together at, say 8:19, something like that. 8:20.
Hmm.
Say something. Really don't do it. Trust.
I realized I was talking to you muted, so that wasn't helpful. Are you ready to pull back together?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I don't know whether everybody else is.
Frida, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm ready.
You good? How about you, Milo? I mean, Mylan. Mellow Mylan, it says. Are you ready to pull back together, or do you need a minute? Okay.
Mylan's muted.
Oh, you're muted, Mylan. And so are you, Jim. So,
Go ahead. I'm just finishing a sentence.
Okay, all right. Yeah, somebody who'd like to share something that you're journaling about, something you're ready to commit to or getting ready to commit to.
But mine, I focused on, I got to thinking about the top courses. And in the many that I did, the workshop question was typically had to do with something like effective teamwork or something like that. And then you could amass a body of knowledge. And I mean, I was wondering what would happen if, say, the top network had every single practice workshop address a common question, like what can we do to contribute to building a sustainable earth? What can we do to create a compassionate society? What can, or I do, to create a sustainable lifestyle for my family or for my community? You know, and as a community, because it's so, it just feels like that we are very lucky to be connected to each other and connected to a community that's larger than ourselves, that's bigger than can do, at least that I would probably do in Northfield, for instance. And what would it mean to use the tools that we've got to address questions that are important? I'm complete.
Would it be good at this point for, I'm going to end up organizing the report, so it's not going to be an option for me to do the reporting, but I'm wondering if Alfreda were to say she was going to do the reporting, or somebody, then we could get the reporting done based on these insights, like what Barrett just shared.
That'd be great.
You know what I'm willing to do is to report on our reflections that we just had at the beginning. And and then if somebody else could pick it up and report on the to-dos or whatever we're thinking of, or
how about having two of you breaking it up and having
could you do that, Mylan?
Okay. Someone share the first part where we shared what we learned, what we've been learning, and then
so on this question of what we're ready to do, I'm wanting to be a storyteller. I'm wanting to every interaction I have to instigate conversations that get people considering the next 50 years and how things are going to be different, and being ready for that.
One really thing that caught my attention in a big way was just tonight when Evie, you were talking about this game. Louis and I have worked on the Millennium Development Goals, then the Sustainable Development Goals for probably 5-6 years. I don't know, a while.
Could I intervene? Could I interrupt? I missed
Barrett
taking notes on Barrett, and I just want to get the points that we're going to cover.
Okay, that mine was to have, say, the top workshops, practice workshops address a series of questions about what can I do to contribute to building a sustainable earth, or a compassionate society, or a lifestyle for my family, something like that.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Okay.
All right, now Joyce, go.
Yeah, so, yeah, I would like to track down that game. That is a step I'm definitely wanting to do.
Yeah, I sent an email to Jackie asking if you were in
How you could obtain it.
Minneapolis, how would you be able to get a hold of the game?
Okay, that's
And
wonderful.
see
What is
what
the
she
name
says.
of the game? What is the name of that game?
Let me
She's
ask
gonna
her-
look it up.
Okay.
I'll ask her
Okay.
again.
It's based on the UN 17
Sustainable Development Goals
goals. Yeah,
for 2030.
for 2030. Yeah.
Okay. Somebody.
All right,
else.
Joyce is gonna
Yeah.
track down the game.
So
Right.
I want to track down that game and become able to use that as a teaching tool, a tool to get people reflecting and younger people maybe, learning about it in a fun way and not an overwhelming way. But
I know that that 2 people in Taiwan had to, well, we had 5 people who went to the original course for certification and only 2 of them got certified. But they're here in Taiwan and the other people know how to do it. But so my guess is that a lot of people know about this sustainable development game, but it's really been the focus of one of our facilitators' major work. And she's the wife of a physicist and doesn't need to work for a living. So she's doing this as a way to get in touch with more people and more schools. But what we did then was last night we did a contradictions workshop on what is our vision for the Sustainable Development Goals in 2025. And so it got a little depressing. But it was, it's supposed to.
Timeline.
Yeah, basically everybody says, yeah, that's what we actually do. We would rather buy things than repurpose things. We would rather, try and keep what we have than go become simplistic, go with a simple lifestyle. So it's real. It's not, everyone is clear that many politicians would not welcome our data that we've discovered. And I think the environmental NGOs already know that. So we just have to figure out what's the next step. So that's what we're going to do tonight, our night.
You're in the morning, aren't you?
Strategy. Yes, it's
You're in
morning and I'm eating my oatmeal.
I keep wondering whether whether we're trapped in a sense of vision and contradictions that's naive.
Yes.
Only going out
Yeah.
4 or 5 years. And the thing, part of the thing I find myself wrestling with is, there's that list of 11 or so things in chapter 14. This thing about grieving losses. I sort of get that
2030.
intellectually, but I go whatever. But I wonder how to include a deep sense of grieving or sorrow into who I am, and not just sort of being cheerful and buoyant, but not thinking of that like being, depressed, but like being depressed. But how do we open up? I've been thinking about, old ICA songs, and there are only a few of them that really got into sorrow.
It just strikes me, this is just sparked off what Jim just said, but it was part of the decade of the 2030s, I think, or the 2040s. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be just in terrible grief and sorrow because of what we, have done. It occurs to me, though, that as we have become more conscious, it's almost like when you wake up and you see the connection, you see the depth, you see the pain, you see it, then you need to do it then. And maybe that you need to start the grieving process now when you've come to Mylan's thing. And the people that are still denying, the ones that Evie said played the game and don't want to taught in the schools and don't believe it, and that's way too out of kilter for them to think. But for some of us, it's now we need it, not in 2030.
Right. And I mean, just look at all the houses that are burning in the West, in Oregon and California. I mean, these people are grieving. It's not like they can wait and grieve later. They're going to.
No, I know.
And so, and maybe we have to really experientially run into some of the big, horrible stuff of this more to get into the grieving part. I mean, if my house burnt up and I'm worried about, safety and where am I going to sleep because my house burnt up. I mean, that would take me into big grief.
Right.
Well, for me, the other thing is awakening the younger generation to what's going on. I mean, we're going to be dead when the worst of it hits. And I think about my grandchildren, I don't know, there's 8 of them, I guess. And just, how do you even begin these conversations that aren't so depressing? They're not going to even want to get a job, I mean, it's like that's why this game kind of intrigues me, is what has to happen in schools? What has to happen in our families when we get together with our kids, grandkids, and our children they are the ones that are going to bear the brunt of this, not us.
Yeah. We have 96 seconds. So
I have two practical things I thought of doing. One is to actually follow through on that idea of contacting the legislatures about the film that is so good on imaginally laying out where we are.
Yes.
And the second is I'm working on trusts, 2 different trusts. Since we're not going to be here and live forever, I want the resources we've accumulated to go to the right places to help push the trends forward for the great transition. So actually detailing it, writing it out, where are they located, how much are they going to get, all that.
Yeah.
And to find out what's reliable. Do you know what I mean? If somebody is already doing research on trusts, say, what are you picking? You know what I mean?
Yep.
I think that'd be great for us to share. And and that last chapter work that Alton and
I know it fit right in.
It's fabulous work.
One last question. We just have a few seconds.
Mylan, you can add yours.
Are we going to answer another question in a few seconds? I can insert this during the reporting, but I just feel like we are jumping to things we can do really fast, and I want to ponder and grieve and
Hi, Jan.
Cool.
Hey, Alfreda.
How you doing?
Good, good.
How you feeling? Hi, Judy.
Good.
Hi.
Real good, real good. Yeah.
All right.
Hey,
There's a
How did-
song that I think George Walters wrote. And it went something like this. Put your ear to the ground, hear the pains and the joys of a new human world are coming to be. Put your arms round the earth, a gesture of care. Sing out your song, the courage to care.
It's wonderful.
Anyway, I thought we should have reports.
Mhm.
So let's start with room one. And what time is it? I always get lost at this point. If you were going to report in 3 to 5 minutes, that would be helpful. And if it was really succinct and memorable, but we're grateful for whatever your report is. Room one.
Okay, I'm going to report for our group, and we had a wonderful group. I've fallen in love with all of the people in this group in the last few weeks, and am grateful for all of their contributions throughout the time. This is a list of some of the sharing that came out of that, and there are a few that I'm going to ask people to just share briefly about. Dick, if you would just share a little about the Africa and how people could support that if they're interested.
I should do it now?
Yes, now.
So this is part of ICA USA. It's called the Global Fund, and it's got a focus particularly on Africa, and it's moving into Latin America to support the ICAs that are working in these continents, and particularly asking them to think through how they can promote climate change. And what are they already doing in climate change? We have Ghana, is working in biodiversity conservation. We have 2 of these organizations are working on solar projects at the village level. Regenerative agriculture is another one that we've been supporting. So we're all working together to think through strategies that would make a difference in Africa.
And if people are interested, they can contact you directly to find out more about
Absolutely,
that.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Linda, would you also just share some about, Linda has in here where you see building local community, Denver Anka, and a website and deep adaptation. So, but especially about the Anka program.
Okay, really, Sunny is the one who should talk about that because she's the founder of it.
Oh, cool.
Along with Denver colleagues. So I think she really should talk about Anka.
Great delegation.
Hey, you want me to do that now?
Could you just give a brief statement about
it? It's a group, originally ICA colleagues and 2 or 3 others. It's still kind of that, who's after reading the Pope's encyclical decided, and looking at what Denver was doing or not doing, it didn't have a way for residents and citizens to participate in climate work under the bigger umbrella. So we started a program to do climate action forums in neighborhoods. And until COVID, we did them in person, usually on a Saturday or a Friday night and part of a Saturday.
Johnny Walker.
Yeah, and they had, we'd have some introductions of what people are already doing. We'd do some climate updating, usually in dialogue with them ahead of time on what they needed to hear. And then we do a long-term vision. And then they might be some presentations that they wanted to hear on certain things like solar or batteries or rooftop gardens or whatever. And then we'd look at that vision and determine where they wanted to start doing action in the coming year. And we do action with it, just like we do in a strategic planning. Those 1-page sheets they fill out and share.
So I just encourage people, if you are interested in learning more about it, which I personally am, is to either contact Linda or Sunny, and it sounds like they can point you in that direction.
Okay.
And the last thing from our group is Ellen has periodically, when we've done journaling, writes haikus for us. And so in our journaling today, she shared a haiku. So would you share your haiku with us?
Sure. Open mind, listen. In this transition, courage. You are not alone.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think it's very powerful to remember that we are not alone in this and that we are all connected in this great transition going forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
And group 1 is complete.
Group 2.
Okay, I was trying to type a few things in here for you. Let me see if there's one more thing I needed to get in.
Just to say they took 4 minutes, so that was really impressive.
Yeah. Okay, this isn't everything, but it was fairly clear that all of us felt we needed community in order to move forward. And that perhaps maintaining this particular community that we already are could be useful for that, for part of that. And then the electric town meetings was a big, there's a lot of talk around that. And the fact that we've done town meetings in the past across the world, and we could now do them electronically, and what might that look like, and how can our facilitators support that, so that we are bringing not only a context, but and methods, but also spirit. To always used to say we bring methods and spirit and everything. You need to add context to that. And then also a way to hold people accountable. How do you get people to be accountable for what they say they're going to do or what needs to happen? That's a tough one. You know, we don't want to be out holding hands, but and then wondering if there was a way to get larger influencing groups in government or business or nonprofits who are willing to support this kind of work, to sponsor it or host it, or very carefully framed. We don't get in deep doo-doo, but there's a way to move forward and make a bigger difference. I think, is there anything else our group would add that I totally missed? Being a full human, working on our craft. What else I got here?
Being bearers of the news story, not only just being a bearer of the doom and gloom, but be bearers of the news story, all the connections and what is going on positively and how we can focus on that.
Not only clarifying the downward spiral through the fall, the sorrow, and the grief, but the opportunity of the lift in order to bring that into being sooner.
Yeah.
Anything else from group 2?
Yeah, you mentioned this already, Sunny, but just to clarify it further, the issue of, we talked about it more specifically as sponsorship, because that's one of the things that Elgin brings out in his thing. It's about, sponsors always had some particular acts they want to grind, either sell more products or propaganda. So if you do an electronic town meeting thingy, how do you stay free of specific, how do you get sponsorship and yet stay free of any particular invested interests? So yeah.
I wondered if his nonpartisan thing about needing a nonpartisan group to organize it was even possible in this day and time. And Nancy suggested universities might be avenue.
Wouldn't
rigging.
Excuse me for interjecting, but isn't the International Association of Facilitators the obvious reality to take a lead on that? They stand for all those principles, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's too bad we don't have anybody here who's a member of that group that could talk to them.
I remember that group. Raise your hand.
Founding member, but not.
Founding member.
Not active.
Founding member.
Current
No,
member.
you know what I mean? I mean, I don't know how to bring that up, but it seems like there's this broad network of people that have been working for 30, 40, 50 years to get a better sort of participation. And they've all been pushed now to do this online. And they've been doing what they have to do to survive, but at the same time, they tended to really support some awesome values in terms of neutrality and giving people a voice and stuff like that. It just seems logical. I just don't know who to bring that up with. Excuse me.
Well, maybe this group could put something together that could be talked about and figure out who, you know, who would be the people that we know that are a part of that still. I haven't been a part of it since the beginning. I mean, well into it, but but that we can figure out. We can figure that out.
There is a global virtual conference of the IAF in October. And last year's global virtual conference actually included one of the events was a co-celebration with the UN on participation.
That'd be great.
Anyway,
yeah.
So
I
it's
forgot to
ongoing.
mention that we had thought of the possibility of, even if just among this group, sharing approaches that work on Zoom. We find out what's going on out there that's actually happening.
I apologize for interjecting. I just got
You're a
so excited.
troublemaker.
Yeah.
Let's hear from
Was in
room
our group
5.
and has something to say.
Okay, I'm the first half of Group 5 report, and these are the things that we've learned from being in the study and in the group. Just looking at the huge timeline and the projection out has helped us know our place so that we see where we stand in the midst of that, and therefore can maybe better focus our energies into the things that need to happen or could even be possible to happen now to help bring about the lift and the great transition. It isn't going to be to do it, not in our lifetime. The fact that we are not going to be able to hide from this world that we are facing, where we are as the planet, that being together and studying this has enabled dealing with the overwhelmedness that one can feel, that this has helped, the study has helped reposition climate change as an item in a whole systems crisis, and questioning whether in the creating of this new lifestyle that will emerge that takes into account death as a part of life, as opposed to the lifestyle that we've all participated in, which has been a lot about preventing death. We learned about the SDG game, the Social Developmental Goals game, that's been based on the UN 17 goals and what's to happen in 2030. And though a lot of effort has been done to get that played in schools and a lot of interest around that, people who can stare you right in the face and say, why are you doing this? Why is this needed? So there is an attempt, a need to focus on the next generation, the younger people, the ones that are coming along. And it's also easy not to face the depth of the problems that we are facing. I'll close there and we'll go to second half of Group 5.
Okay, I've got Elfrida covered 2 of my points already, so I'll just hit the remaining 6 or 7. It was suggested that that top workshop leaders could be instrumental in creating some kind of a common set of workshop questions that would be a consensus of the most important ones, like, I'm not saying sustainable communities or we used to say the human factor in world development, but something that would be those most important climate relatable questions that everybody would include in their workshop questions. And then let's see, vision workshops. Somebody mentioned that the vision and contradiction workshops reveal actually what we are doing and in our participation in destroying the universe or the world or the climate and so on, and so that could be a helpful tool in the awakening process. One comment was, are we trapped in a vision contradiction workshop of the past? That struck me, so I thought I would throw that in there. And then how to include a deep sense of grieving or sorrow, and maybe bringing up some of the songs of sorrow that we have that we used to experiment with, and that we need to start the grieving process now. Someone mentioned. I kind of agree with that, and I will throw in. No, I will wait to throw that in. Someone suggested everybody should watch this film that Dwayne Elgin recommended, and I lost the name of it. Somebody throw it in.
Breaking Boundaries.
Yeah,
Breaking Boundaries.
Breaking Boundaries. It's on Netflix. Okay. And then also the comment was, I'm gonna start steering my trust document toward resources for supporting the right trends. So the last thing I'll just add about that grieving process. Some of you know that I've mentioned before that Linda and I've been watching these post-doom YouTube conversations that Michael Dowd, who some of you know, has been doing about 75 of them. And he has also put together a primer of 3 hour-long YouTube workshops. One of them is Sustainability 101, but I just recommend those as part of what we might think of as going through the grieving process before we get to all the great things we can do. There is a sense in which we need to confront the doom, I think, before we go to the post-doom, and that's really what he's best at. He's a fantastic imaginal educator, so I'll just throw that in there.
You did do 6 or 7. You did do 6 or 7.
Very good.
Room
Thank you.
6.
Thank you both.
So Group 6 had a very rich conversation. What I put in the chat is really a focus on our commitments moving forward. We feel that it's important to look more carefully and deeply at our vocations and our callings at the present time and connect them to the work that we're called to do around choosing Earth. Several of us in our group are connected to supporting we're involved with the Sustainable Cities movement. And I think we hope to be able to exchange some direction or guidance or help for one another as we continue working with those movements in our particular communities. Larry, why don't you say what you're doing with ICA?
A lot. Well, what I talked about was that I literally just wrote a proposal to the ICI board about initiating three initiatives, one on authentic dialogue, civil discourse, one on expanding our community development work, integrating in the environmental piece to our community development research, and the third about depth, how this is the internal discipline that's coming up later here. The whole thing of how do we revisit our mission and purpose and how we are training ourselves and learning from each other in order to do that. So the metaphor for each of those, the metaphor for the first is town meeting, metaphor for the second is the band of 24 or the sharing approaches that work, and the metaphor for the third is the academy or courage to lead, or anyway, but some way that we have the interior discipline piece that we're sharing. But then that added in the whole thing of the true call. What was his term? True gift. That it's not about indoctrination, it's about discernment and then choice. I'm complete.
Then we also talked a bit about planting trees. We talked about eating what we put in our bodies, and working with young people to strengthen their efforts to become leaders on these issues by addressing them relative to their specific needs now. And then continuing efforts in reconciliation, celebrating Native and Indigenous leadership in our nations and communities, really connecting. And we talked a little bit about various economies, building new economies. Jan, you want to say a word about that?
It was a little plug on Karen Snyder and I are going to do a 4-part series on the donut economics and that whole approach, which I think it totally dovetails in here in terms of an economy that revisits the goals of where it's going, and then economy that takes into effect both the environmental degradation and the social situation, housing, food, sustainability. So it has more of this comprehensive understanding. So in that, we're going to do that in September, but there's wonderful material, just YouTube, Donut Economy. If you want to get inside of that, they've just got wonderful references. And the other one is Post Growth Institute. Again, different ways of doing finances, alternative economies, kind of an offer needs dynamic instead of just always transactional money and the gift economy. So, yep, thank you.
Gift economy.
What's that group?
Are there others from Group 6 that would like to add anything?
Wow.
We're
Go ahead and
complete.
tell us the group again, Jan.
Oh, which group? The Post Growth
Post-
Institute?
Post Growth Institute.
Or just look, and then that's one whole alternative economy. And then the other one is the donut economics. And you can just enter that in. And she did this work about 5 years ago. And now they've got action labs where they're
Who is
looking
she,
at-
Jan?
Yeah,
Who
who
said
is
she
she?
did?
Who?
Who said she did and who is she?
Author of the book on that
The
economic.
author of the book of Donut Economy. Hayworth?
Raworth?
I won't, look up
Raworth, maybe.
Donut Economy. That's the way I remember it. So, but she has just incredible resources. And part of the reason we're so excited is she's an imaginal educator. This is understanding economics from an imaginal point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this what
That-
you're doing? You and Karen are doing, Jan?
Yes.
You're doing a thing on this one? Is that September?
We shifted it from August to September.
Great.
That
4
notice.
session.
It's Kate Raworth. I can put that in
Thank
the
you.
chat.
Okay, thank you very much.
Kate Walworth. Okay.
It's too bad there's not some sort of thing you could go on the internet and just like put in a term and look for things and find them, you know? Somebody should invent that.
Good idea.
Well, thank you all. Is anybody, one or two people, do you have a line of poetry that's going through your mind right now that you'd like to share? Something that, I mean, you feel like we should have a celebration because this has been wonderful. One of the things that occurred to me is Dwayne keeps talking about rite of passage. That we need to create a rite of passage for ourselves and for our species that gets us to move and change. Earlier on, I found a little video clip. Some of you may know the name Fred Lanphier, who when he was 70 years old announced he wanted to become an Earth Elder. And nobody would initiate him into that because they didn't know what it was. But I found myself intrigued with that notion. He had 4 points, but he only said 3. 1 point was tell the story, that he wanted to get inside what was really going on in a way that he could help people build and appropriate a story of what was going on. The second thing he said was he wanted to work at his own, he lived in a co-housing community at that point, but he wanted to work in his own household, his own community, so it would be kind of a living illustration of the kind of household or community that was embracing what was really going on in a great way. And his third one was he wanted to create a sense of, give people an opportunity to create a sense of place and try to find a way to locate themselves. And then he never said what the fourth one was.
Well, it seems to me too that Rob Work's book might be another one we'd want to take a look at. You know, in term, if several people have said it'd be good to be able to keep going or something, but I haven't read Rob's book, but I've got it, and I mean it seems to me it moves into the sort of a practical application stage. I don't know.
So let's take a minute.
Can I just say, Earth Elders was a group that came out of Creation Spirituality movement.
He mentioned he'd gone to a conference on that, yeah. So let's take a moment and look into each other's eyes and appreciate this opportunity for collegiality. And then I'll call on David Rebstock. Are you there, David?
Yes.
Okay, and after you've looked in everybody's eyes, I'll call on David Rebstock to send us off with a final dedication. And then excuse me, there's 2 announcements. One, we decided to focus this session not on an evaluation of our journey, but on next steps. And working with Colleen Elgin, she's designed an online kind of survey thing to get our detailed feedback on the sessions we went through and what happened to us and how that worked. And as soon as we get offline here, I'm going to send that to you, and I want you to go on and answer the questions for our collective edification, and also it will do your soul good to reflect further on what happened. And then secondly, Dwayne and Colleen have agreed to schedule a session on Wednesday, August 4th. Write this down. You're not writing this down. You're looking in the screen. You can tell if you're writing things down. August 4th at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, 7:30 p.m. Central time. This would be especially for those of you who've been group leaders and who are trying to like, quote, quote, teach this course, but anybody else who might be interested in a continuing connection with the Choosing Earth movement. It'll be a chance for us to get together over Zoom and share some insights and have a little bit of dialogue.
Did you say August 5th?
Fourth.
Fourth.
Fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe it's a Wednesday.
Got it. Thank you.
We thought we're kind of worn out on Mondays.
Are you going to send that out in
Yeah, do send that out to everybody.
My iPad is sitting right next to me with the email queued up, ready to go.
I'm not sure that you have my email. Can I put it in the?
Eva,
Yes,
put it in the chat.
I will.
I sent it to him.
Do you
I
not
saw that,
get
but I
it?
didn't receive anything after that.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm not sure I got on any lists.
Didn't get added somewhere.
Yeah.
Jim, can you say anything more about the Choosing Earth movement as it stands right now? I don't know is there a growing group of people coalescing, or what do you know?
Right now I'm copying David's email so I don't lose it again.
Okay.
Thank you.
I know that Dwayne and Colleen are moving into a co-housing community at the end of this week.
Wow, that's a good idea.
And Colleen sent Dwayne out to do errands and he was successful, including getting a haircut. That's a little bit more detail than you need. The section of their website that is resources, to me, is more resources than I want to believe exist about positive ways to approach this. So, how do I say this? This is a solid thing. We're really, we got colleagues everywhere that, how do you say? We got colleagues everywhere who are of a mind to be thinking about crazy things like the next half century and figuring out what to do. And we have a kind of responsibility to people who are caught up in trying to survive day by day by day and make policy on what needs to happen within the next election cycle to help them along.
Well, it
Anyway,
strikes me too that how do we integrate this maybe with the ICA too, and how that as an organization supports this work, in the US and internationally.
Are there some of you here who are on the ICA board?
Me.
Put your hand up, yeah.
Nancy
Trask.
And I am too, Bear. I'm on the board. This is my last of 2 terms though, so I'm not on for long.
Well, I think it would be great to schedule some sort of a dialogue or something with the leadership of ICA
Okay.
USA, as well as ICA International, and figure out how to help them. And also those of you who are connected with the TOP network and International Association of Facilitators.
Yeah.
It seems like in
yeah.
a strange way, this is a moment they've all been waiting for.
Yes. Yeah. Because all of those, the IAF and everything came from the ICA and our ICA International. And it just seems to coalesce everything all together, what might be, create some momentum.
Well, in 1956, Kenneth Boulding wrote a book called The Meaning of the 20th Century, in which he talked about the Great Transition. And he also talked about a phenomenon he called an invisible college of all kinds of people who saw what was going on and were working towards it. And he wasn't really excited about trying to organize that and turn it into a political party, but he said maybe somebody wants to do that. And to me, that great transition that started in the 1950s is part of what's going on. Those of us who kind of woke up to that didn't realize how much we weren't taking into account. And for that, I think we have to be sorry, because we thought we were being comprehensive, but we didn't know we weren't. So we should grieve in a wonderful way to move forward, but at the same time, let us not, well, now I'm looking at Martine. God help us, the religious bodies in this world are wrestling deeply with this.
Yes. Yes.
And how to focus on the next 50 years in a deep, deep way. And we got to appreciate what they're wrestling with and work on it. Not only that, I've been drinking rum, so I should stop. So let's close. Let's close. And I'd like to call on David Rebstock to offer a closing dedication. And then if anybody has something they'd like to say afterwards, we'll stop a little bit for afters. And you'll be receiving shortly the email with the link to the evaluation and the setup time.
I don't think you're going to let go of this. Is there anything else coming up, like fall or anything, in terms of these studies?
Well, there's a donut hole.
The donut economics.
Are you hungry?
Yes.
Well, there's also a Rob Works book.
Yes.
Yep. Right.
Yeah. There's also, is it Jean Marshall, who has a book called From Empire to Eco-Democracy?
Yeah.
That's another one that relates right into this. Helpful book.
Send your ideas to Jim.
Oh, Jim, can we have how you have the thing afterwards where people can write in their ideas? Can we keep that going for a little bit? You know what I'm saying?
It's called the internet. It's going to keep going. That's right.
Or the mural, isn't it? The mural or something?
No, it's a Google. It's a Google Doc.
Google Doc.
Okay.
The Google Doc.
I vote for keeping that going.
All right, now we got into the afters before we had the closing dedication, so we've all messed up now. So everybody put yourself on mute, and David, close this out for us, and then if there's after conversations, we'll do that then.
Sit up straight. Take a deep breath and feel the breath in your gut, in your lungs. Take another breath and feel it in your heart, in your head. At the beginning, in session 1, we talked about needing a new story. We are part of a spirit movement that is participating with others in the Great Transition is a part of that new story. Each of us has an interior counsel who guides us, to whom we listen. They may include a member of your family, a mentor, a colleague, a hero or heroine, young or old, dead or alive, to whom you listen to most. Many of us call them our meditative counsel. Close your eyes and think about who are on your meditative counsel and what they would say to you at this time as we continue to engage in the great work of the great transition. What are you struggling with as we complete the study that you would ask them about? What would the oldest member say? What would the newest member say or do to meet the challenges of the great transition? What would a historical member say about being on behalf of our neighbors? Any other member? Open your eyes and let's close by singing a song. This is a song you can take. This is a song from the Fifth City Preschool called Free, Free, Free to Decide. I'll sing it through twice so you get the words, and then I'll sing it again and you repeat each line after me. Free, free, free to decide what this world is going to be. this imperative is ours, to be free, free, free to decide what this world is going to be. This imperative is ours, to be free, free, free to decide. Now join me. Free, free, free to decide.
What this world is going to be.
This imperative is ours to be free, free, free to decide.
I forgot it was a repeat after you, or I did anyway.
Okay.
Still a great song.
Thank you all for
It's
this
brilliant.
journey.
Yay, thank you.
Who knows where our bodies they shall find, but with us anew now the mystery appears, the meaning of the life for humankind.
What is this? The Iron Man song?
And I pronounce this study group closed. And
Thank
we
you.
move into the afters, and especially if those of you who are who have taken responsibility for leading the groups would stay on, but anybody else who has something they'd like to say, join us and we'll chat for a few minutes. And check your emails because you're going to be getting an email from me imminently with a link and a date.
And I'm hoping I'll get one from Larry Philbrook also. He was going to send emails of one of his graphics. That would be good.
You should already have it.
Oh, great. Okay, lovely.
Oh, that's a
Thank
great
you, everyone
mentor
on
of mine would say.
T5. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been great.
So
For
much.
now, we are complete.
So now we,
Not forever, just for now. And I have to take a minor break. You and me both.
My email looks like it has refused to send this email.
It's not the right time. You will know the right time when it is sent.
Eva, how did it go for you?
It has been wonderful to connect and to hear all of your incredible perspectives. And, you know, as Sunny mentioned, I have taught a course actually very similar to this, but much less in depth and like very simplified for the common, a little bit quicker integration perhaps. But the depth of this and the connection in the community here, really seeing what everybody's involved in and what everyone has been involved in has been a really true gift. So I'm very grateful, and a lot of laughter and joy. Really wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dharma, how about you?
Ask the question again, please.
I forget the question. How'd it go for you? What struck you? I don't know.
Yeah, well, this was a great session today. You know, I didn't know that this is how it would shape up, but for me, it kind of rounded up the entire study. I think the questions we asked in the inquiry section were right on target in terms of the next steps and so forth. So that was excellent because it really inspired me, at least personally, and I think it brought us, all of us, to this stage where we are discussing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing what we started the study in more of a practical form and seeing how we can collaborate perhaps in the future. Yeah, I'm
Judy, how
completely-
about you?
Been very meaningful at just the right moment, I think, for me. And I feel like there are new ways to new energy that I have and places to use it.
Martine?
No, it's been a great, reflecting on all of the sessions, it's been, I think, it's been a wonderful opportunity for me personally, and I feel like our group had very powerful conversation, and we never wanted to do any journaling or any smaller group work. I think we just like to talk with each other, so that's what we did.
In what way meaningful for you?
For me, it was for the first time taking a really depth look at these issues and in a very personal way. I think just working through this material made me much more conscious of the things that we're facing relative to climate change, etc. And I started noticing many things happening in my life that were leading me to pain and grief and sorrow, basically, around this. And I'm not out of that yet. So I feel hopeful, but at the same time, I feel, as some in our group have said, just overwhelmed.
It's going to be important for those of you with deep training in religion to figure out ways to help us express, like in some of the Psalms, that the depth of sorrow in a way that doesn't just make us sad, but connects us to the source of being in life.
No, I think you're right. And I think we discussed in our group how difficult it is to actually face that sorrow and that grief. I mean, it certainly not something that I had a whole lot of time for, even though I've often said that I'm very interested in addressing the environment, but not at this level. I mean, this is a serious grappling with, internal issues.
Yeah.
To move forward, I think, in a healthy way and in a hopeful way.
Thank you. How about you, Sonny? You're muted.
Mute.
Because I had to take a little break. Was it about this session? The question about this session, what it meant, or the whole thing?
Yeah, whatever.
Oh, okay.
Whatever. Don't allow your facilitator to drink rum before he starts facilitating.
Well, that journaling exercise was really helpful to me. The questions were, as Dharma said, they were spot on in terms of what I ought to be asking myself. And I got some revelations out of it that I had not yet seen. Overall, this has been such a heightening of the urgency and the horror, and a real call to what does participating and starting something toward the uplift look like. So I'm complete.
Thank you, Sonny.
Yeah.
How about you, Joyce?
You know, how in 12-step programs, they talk about, going down and down and down and down and down and down to hit bottom and then coming up the other side until you are weller than well. So I was thinking about that as part of the deep dive that we've been up to in the last weeks. And, you know, after that timeline, I really just, I don't know, I stuck it in some book and lost track of it. All that. It was hard. It was really emotionally hard. And that was also the time when my sister and I gave her this book for her birthday. And then I was visiting her a couple, 3 weeks later. You know, she came to one of that session with Dwayne Elgin. And Louie and I were out on a walk in their neighborhood. We were visiting them. And there was, you know, those little libraries where you put your used books. And my sister put that book in the giveaway library. It was only 2 weeks after I gave it to her. Yeah, it was a hard few weeks in there in the beginning, just emotionally, and just also it was getting so real and so overwhelming. And then the last couple sessions have really been starting to come up that other side. I'm not all the way up the other side, but starting to come up the other side, where I can start to really see, okay, I think I can live in this world that's got this going on. And I think I can find a way to plug in to do a piece among other people doing their piece. And the thing that made me feel that way the most was just doing this study in our group. If I had been reading this book on my own, I would have put it in the little library for the neighborhood also, probably. I mean, you know, it was just so helpful to have this community and the fact that we have common memory in this community. It's not like it's any bunch of people. It's people you've known and worked with in various ways over the years, for the most part. It's been very, very helpful to have that as our way of doing this work. And so, you know, I would love to see us figure our way into some next steps for those that want to move forward together. So here I am. Yeah. So
David.
I felt it was really, really, really helpful.
Thanks, Joyce. David. And I just, before David speaks, I just want to say thank you to David.
Yes.
Has been, who's been holding on to group book studies, I think for longer than I've been alive. And who unfailingly, when it comes time to organize the next session, has already read it and has already decided a couple of really important questions. Anyway, now that I've stolen your thunder, David, what's your reflection?
This was, I think, I looked at the list of books that our little book club had gone through over the last 10 years. And by far, of course, this was the one that had more participation and was more meaningful to me than even the last one. And I agree with Joyce. The week of doing the timeline was the most difficult. It's the week that Ellen dropped out. And it's the week right before we had a family reunion in Wisconsin, and I tried to talk it through with my 3 sons, one of whom lives on the East Coast, and one of whom lives on the West Coast.
Wow.
And realizing that I probably won't make the 30s, and it's a good chance that my 3 sons won't make the 40s. And so it's left up to my grandchildren, who could live until the 90s quite easily, but not easily. And so that journaling exercise tonight was good for me, because I live in a senior community where the average age of the people is 90 years old. And they all have sons and daughters and grandchildren. And I'm not sure how to present it to them, but I might leave a book out on the table too. And there are groups of people in Rochester, Minnesota that I could work with probably to hopefully make an electronic town meeting happen. We'll see.
David, do you know that Louis Pierce works out of Rochester 3 days a week? He actually stays in Rochester, and then he works in Chatfield. This is probably be the case for a number of months. So
we should have lunch together someday.
yeah. So he's in charge of a dental clinic in Chatfield. I probably could meet sometime after work with you.
Okay.
Thank you, David. And Corinne, and just to say, someone said they were really impressed with the questions. So 3 cheers to David and Corinne, who worked on coming up with slight modifications to Dwayne and Colleen's outline, and outlined those questions. What's your reflection, Corinne?
Well, I've had a lot, as people have shared, and I first want to just thank everyone for your heartfelt sharing tonight, and also express my deep appreciation for Jim and David as really being the initiators and force behind making this work. And for me personally, this has been really a powerful process. And at the beginning of the year, I did my own personal visioning process. And one of the things that I put on my vision for the year was to find or create a like-minded community. And I feel like this group has been part of that coming true for me, and to be very inspired by the people here. And in the comments in the chat, Vicky wrote something about so many accomplished, dedicated, and authentic people. And I would just add not only that, but inspiring people. And I've felt really humbled to be a part of this group, whereas many of you have had years of time together. This is new for me, and really basically I've had very little exposure to the ICA in my life. So I'm grateful for that. It's also motivated me to create a local community and to get involved in a local community and be more active in that. I've had a lot of grief throughout the process, and initially friends asked me not to talk about this because they found it depressing and didn't want to hear what I was reading about. And I had a lot of grief about recognizing that the life that I planned on living was not going to happen. And I just had gone through retiring and having this wonderful image of traveling and doing lots of things that would be fun. And then I feel guilty if I get on a plane. So now it's just like, I think one of the things Joyce said about kind of you have to hit bottom before you can kind of decide where you're going in the future. And I think that's, I think this group helped me hit bottom. And I feel much more positive now about the future. I also just say that initially, when I signed up and volunteered to be a group leader, facilitator, I've done a lot of facilitation in my life, so I wasn't concerned about facilitating. But what I thought was, I mean, these are all expert facilitators. You all have just designed and developed facilitation methods, and I felt like intimidated by the group. And yet I was really committed that if I was going to get value out of this, I was going to jump in completely and give it my all. So I thank you for the opportunity to do that. And the timeline for me was a turning point, because even though there's a lot of negative and the idea of the collapse and the downturn, there was hope at the end of it. It was like it was the first time I saw the light, and I saw the light through my grandchildren and my unborn grandchildren and the future leaders. And I also felt a real shift in our group in that session. And I think the vulnerability of people expressing their feelings and being really vulnerable created a sense of intimacy in our group that I don't think would have been there otherwise. It took it from being an academic to kind of an intimate sharing. And so I'm very grateful for the group that I've been a part of, and for all of that. And I made a long list of things that I'm going to follow up on tonight. So I'm going into action as soon as this is over.
Nancy.
Yes. So, I mean, my response, I just found the first few chapters so interminable, where we were going over and over the sadness of this. And Dwayne Elgin, to me, seemed sad. And like he was carrying a huge weight. And of course, anything that sounds so grim, and I've got children in their early 30s, 2 kids in their early 30s. It's a hard message to take in on the personal level, But finally, we got to the chapters that started talking about the lift and the things that we can do to make a way forward and to support the earth and the earth voice. So I was rejoicing finally in that. I mean, I didn't feel like my next steps were terrifically concrete, but I must say that I stay very, very busy. And I saw ways that I could, I felt in myself that I would prioritize this over some other things that I'm very busy doing. But I'm also being on the ICA board, I'm extremely excited about these ideas of collaborating with other portions of ourselves. ICA USA with ICA International. Just think of all the ICA Internationals collaborating with each other. And then not to mention TOP and IAF, just powerful powerhouse organizations that it would just be amazing to get all of us collaborating. So feeling very, very hopeful in the end. Did Jim drop out? Oh, there he is. He's in the dark. Oh, Jim, I had to say that I did bump into somebody who told me that you were trying to illustrate the contradictions in a human development consult way back when in India, and you acted out the part of a bullock who was chained up or something like that. So we have our own imaginal educators here.
Yeah, we may have our own imaginative educators, but just to say, my son has electronic smart light switches. And you have to ask Siri or Alexa or somebody to turn them on, and I have no idea how to do that.
But you're
So
safe.
thank you all. Bye, Martine.
Thanks,
and
Martine.
I really thank you all. Anything else that needs to be said before we go? Again, thank you, David.
all.
Yeah, I hope we find a creative way to move forward together. I'm sure we will. We'll work on it.
You don't think we should just like collapse into despair?
Yeah. Maybe not.
Like it.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, my thumb is tired of being sucked.
No, this is great. And I appreciate all of you, all of everybody, but especially all of you. And Corrine, thank you for being with us. I thought you'd been with us for 40, 50 years. See, I know nothing.
Smoothly fit right in. It's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And thank you, Dharma, for sticking in even though you're desperately ill, or at least need a haircut.
Get well.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank
Deborah,
you.
I like it. I like your hair the way it is. I like it.
All right.
Yeah, the curls are nice.
So by
Oh,
now you
wow.
should have received, how many, did you receive the email?
I
Maybe.
can look and see.
Haven't looked.
Yes.
So you could go right to that link and start filling out your responses
Oh,
okay.
great.
while
Yeah.
it's on your
Okay.
mind.
It's 9:48. I'm sure I'm going to be doing that right now.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you all very much.
Bye-bye all. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Look
Bye.
forward to
everyone.
talking again.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye then.
Much love.
Much love.
Yeah.
Same to you all. Bye.
So David, Colleen suggested that alternate date that would be better because of them moving. So I figured let's just go with that rather than negotiating more.
What is the alternative date?
It's in the email, August 4th, which is a Wednesday at 7:30 Central Time.
Okay. Okay.
All right, anything else?
No,
That closing dedication was amazing.
why?
Why? Because you brought in this notion of the meditative council, and you turned it into kind of a pious closure, from turning it from a sort of pious close your eyes and be present to a real journey through our consciousness to see who was there and who was pushing us. It was very wonderful. Thank you. Especially
I do wanna share-
especially from such an old guy.
I do want to share my newest member, what he said. He said you should get in good trouble.
Oh yeah, this is John Lewis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
should get in good trouble. And there's no way that I could help but get in good trouble when I'm with you.
Well, no, that's really good. That's really good. This is what Dava was saying she appreciated, and Corrine were saying. They have just a kind of a community of instigators to help help us reach out and move forward. Yeah, that's very good. Thank you.
Okay, we'll be in touch. I'll try to get this thing written up in the next few days. I've started. I'm up to session 4 already,
All right.
but session 5 is a tough one.
All right. I'm gonna go eat dinner. And I can't
Okay.
see, you can't see me anymore because it's so dark here.
I can see you,
All right.
the mystery man.
Take care,
Let's see.
David. Love to Ellen.
I'm gonna click on end.
All right.